All right. Good morning, everyone. I see a lot of you already saying good morning. A couple of you. Make sure you have out your piece of paper from yesterday, if you have it, and a pencil or pen so you can take some more notes. Today we are going over the same thing, steps of factoring by grouping, but we are going to be going over what happens if we don't get the same, just like a question that we had yesterday. So let's go ahead and let's make sure that you guys can see me now. Here we go. Good morning. All right, so here we go. Let's take a look at our steps again, just so we can refresh. So I'm gonna zoom in over here, maybe. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to group pairs of terms with common factors. So what that means is we're going to put our groups together just like we were doing yesterday. So we put our groups together and then we factor out the GCF from each group. So we're going to take the factor of both sides, put it out in front, and then we're going to use the distributive property to write the polynomial as a product of binomials. So again, all we did was we put the GCF in front, we factored it out of the binomial, and we put the other GCF in front and factored it out of the binomial. We found that we got the same binomials here, and we factored that guy out, and then we wrote our GCFs in another binomial to the side. All right, we checked it all by multiplying. So do you guys remember more? Should we get started? Okay, let's take a look at number 3. We're going to start with number 3. Here we go. If the computer will zoom in, right. Okay, let's move him over just a little bit. All right, go ahead, see if you guys can go ahead and start number 3 on your own. You're going to be looking for what are your groups first, find your GCF of the first group, find your GCF of the second group, and see if you can factor it out. All right, good luck. Use Desmos if you need it. All right, if you hear anybody in the background, it's probably either my husband or my puppies. We'll see. Okay, how do we do? Should we try it? Okay, I'm going to be looking here. I have 6x cubed minus 3x squared plus 4x minus 2. So I have them all listed out. I think for my groups, I'm going to have my first group, which is this guy right here. 6x cubed minus 3x squared. Do I have a negative in front of that 6? Nope, so I'm not taking out a negative. But let's take a look at 6 and 3. I have GCD, parentheses 6, comma 3. Looks like my greatest common factor is 3. Oh my goodness. My dogs are running around. All right, and now I have x cubed and x squared. What do they both have? X squared. Good. They both have x squared. Now let's look at my second group right here. 4x minus 2. Does that 4 have a negative in front? No, so I am not factoring out a negative. But let's look at 4 and 2. What do they have? What is their greatest common factor? If you don't know off the top of your head, we use a handy tool called Desmos. And we type in GCD, parenthesis 4, comma 2. We get our GCF is 2. And we have x, and then negative 2 or minus 2 doesn't have a variable on it. So are we going to be taking out any variables for our GCF? No, we will not, because they both need to have it or not. So we just have 2. That's it. All right, so now that I have my GCFs, I've got to pull them in front and write what is left over in the parentheses. So my first GCF was 3x squared. So that's going to go right here, 3x squared. Now, if I take out, or if I factor out 3x squared from 6x cubed minus 3x squared, what am I going to have left over? Remember, factoring is just dividing it out. So 6x cubed, 6 divided by 3 is 2. Good. X cubed, I have 3, I'm taking away 2. How many do I have left? 1. So I just have x. Now negative 3 divided by 3 is negative 1. X squared divided by x squared. They're gone, so I just have negative 1. Go ahead, try the second one while I get the puppies out. Coda. All right, maybe they'll interrupt us again. We'll see. It's a maybe right now. All right, so if you were factoring out that second group, your GCF was 2, so you're going to put that 2 right out front. Now 4x divided by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. That x is just going to stay there because we're not taking away any x's, so we just have one x, so it's going to stay x. And now we have minus 2 divided by 2. Minus 2 divided by 2. That means it's just going to be minus 1. All right, if we notice, we have these two are the same. So that means we're going to factor out our 2x minus 1 from each part. So I'm going to write 2x minus 1 right here. If I factor out 2x minus 1 from the first part, so this first section right here, what do I have left? I hope you said 3x squared. Just hoping. Just hoping. Okay, if you factor out 2x minus 1 from this second guy, the second part right here, what do you have left? It is a plus 2 because that 2 is still a positive, so it is a plus 2. Now, we have our factors, 2x minus 1 and 3x squared plus 2. What do I do to check it? Multiply is correct. So I'm going to try and zoom in a little bit. That way I can write my boxes a little better. Oh. Okay, so here we go. We have our boxes. I have 2x right here. I'm going to separate my terms with a line. Minus 1, 3x squared. Separate my terms in 2. Now, the purpose for multiplying this out is to make sure that I get this same answer or the same expression that I started out with. So I want to make sure when I multiply this out that I'm getting the same thing that I started with. So 2 times 3, I'm going to start with 2x times 3x squared. 2 times 3 is 6. I have x times x squared, so that means I have 1 plus 2 more, which is x to the third. Now I have 2x times 2, 4x, negative 1 times 3x squared, negative 3x squared, negative 1 times 2, negative 2. Now I write it out with greatest exponent to smallest exponent. 6x cubed minus 3x squared plus 4x minus 2. Okay. Not so bad, just a review of what we were doing yesterday. We are going to go over one more, and then we're going to talk about something different, as in what happens if these parentheses aren't the same. So if these parentheses right here, these guys that we have in yellow, aren't the same. All right, so let's take a look at one more before we get going and talking about that. Let's look at number 4 here. Go ahead and try number 4 before I get to it. Try number 4. See if you can beat me. Okay? All right, you ready? See if you guys can do it? Let's see where we're at. Okay. So I have my groups. I'm going to say this first group, and then here's my second group. I have 12x cubed minus 9x squared. What is my GCF for that? Did you use Desmos? So I typed 12 and 9. Oops, how did that happen? There we go, 3. So you should have gotten 3. And again, x cubed, x squared, what do they both have? X squared. And my other one, I have 8x and negative 6. What is their greatest common factor? 2. If you use Desmos, that's awesome. Nice job. I have x and no x, so what do they both have? Just 2. They don't share an x, so we have just 2. So that means I have 3x squared right here, and I have 2 right here. Now 3x squared, if I take out 3x squared out of this guy up here again, 12 divided by 3 is 4. X cubed, I'm taking away x squared, so I have 1x. Now, negative 9x squared, 9 divided by 3 is going to be a negative 3. Why do you think it's going to be a negative? If you said because it's a negative 9 or there's already a negative, you are correct. Now, x squared divided by x squared, perfect. It goes away, so I have 4x minus 3. All right, now if I take out the 2 out of this other group, 8x divided by 2, 4x, negative 6 divided by 2, negative 3. All right, they're the same. They're the same, so that means I can factor that out. So I'm going to have 4x minus 3. When I factor out 4x minus 3 from this first part right here, what do I have left? 3x squared. If I factor out 4x minus 3 from this part right here, what do I have left? Positive 2. Coda. All right, how are we doing? Hi. The puppies really want to play today, right in front of me, right at my feet. We're good though. All right, so how do I check it? By multiplying. I'm not going to multiply it because I want to keep this one a little short, and I want to go on to the next one to talk about what happens if they do not match up, like how they matched up here. What if they don't? So this is correct. This is my grade or my factors. when I factor by double factoring or double grouping. But let's take a look at what if they don't match up. All right. So let's look at number 6 as it moves on over. Keep moving. Keep moving. Okay. Maybe. We're just refreshing over and over again. Come on. There you go. All right. Okay. Let's look. 9x cubed minus 3x squared minus 7x and positive or plus 15. Let's look for a GCF of the first group and our GCF of the second group. So my first group is right here. 9x cubed minus 3x squared. Does 9 have a negative in front? No, so that means I'm not going to factor out a negative. 9 and 3, their greatest common factor is, maybe you've memorized this by now, maybe, is 3. X cubed and x squared, what do they both have? They both have 2 x's, so that means x squared. All right, now let's look at my second group right here. Negative 7x plus 15. Okay, there's a negative in front of that 7. We talked about this yesterday, so if you get caught up on this, watch the video from yesterday. I have a negative in front, so that means I've got to factor out a negative. Now, I don't remember what the greatest common factor of 7 and 15 are, so I'm going to use Desmos. I'm going to type in GCD parentheses 7 comma 15. That GCF is just 1. All right, so let's just write 1. Now we've got to factor out our GCF from both groups. So let's look at my first group, my blue group. 3x squared. 9x cubed. If I divide out or factor out 3x squared, what will I have left? Nine divided by 3 is 3. X cubed divided by x squared, 1 is left, so x. Negative 3x squared divided by 3x squared. Negative 3 divided by 3 is negative 1. X squared divided by x squared. Perfect. So my first group is factored out completely. So let's now look at my second group. I have my GCF of the second group. I have negative 1. So negative 1 is what was factored out. Negative 7x divided by negative 1 is a positive 7x. Positive 15 divided by negative 1 is a negative 15. Okay, so what do you notice? Yesterday I said the first thing you need to do is if these two are different, you need to go back and look at your GCF. So let's go back and look at our GCF because maybe we did the GCF wrong. So let's look. 9x cubed minus 3x squared. Well, 9 and 3, if I plug that into Desmos, just to double check, 9 comma 3, it says my GCF is 3. I have x cubed, x squared. Well, my GCF is x squared. Now my GCF, my second group in green, is negative 7x plus 15. The negative in front of the 7 tells me I need to pull out a negative, so I have my negative. 7 and 15, I did that in Desmos to find the greatest common factor, and it told me it was 1. So it looks like my greatest common factors are correct. Can I factor out so if we look at our other problems, we factored out what was the same. These aren't the same, so can I factor it out? No. So this tells me, here, I'm going to erase our magic, that this is a prime polynomial. This is a prime polynomial. It's prime. Now, if you know what prime means, that means it can only be divided by 1 and itself. So like 2 is prime, 7 is prime, 5 is prime. 5 can only be divided by 1 and 5. That's it. It can't be divided by 2. It can't be divided by 3. That is prime. So this polynomial is prime because it cannot be factored by grouping. All right? So if you have any further questions, make sure that you watched the video before and that you are finishing up your practice and whatever assignment your teacher gave you guys. This is all I have for today, and we'll continue on more with tomorrow. We'll continue on more tomorrow, and we'll just keep moving on. Good luck, guys. If you have any questions, remind, email, get in contact with your teacher. We're here to help you guys. Have a good day. Bye.